In the video of me reacting to the AP poll, I said I wasn't sure if I was going to do a top 10 teams video. I ultimately decided to do it in favor of other videos I was going to put out before the season, which will be done later. My thought process is that it's only fair to say what I think the top 10 teams are if I'm going to critique the AP poll. Since this is a preseason poll, I'm basing it off of how good the team will be throughout the season. How good they will be right away is definitely a factor, but I'm also thinking long term. My main criteria is if someone asked today to pick 10 teams to win the national championship and rank them in order of probability, this is what it would be. The 10th spot is very hard for me. I feel very strongly about the top 9 teams being in the top 10. But the last spot, you could make a case for a lot of teams, and I wouldn't really disagree. Ole Miss is great, but I think they need a little bit more. People love Tennessee, but I don't trust them. They are the Dallas Cowboys of women's basketball. They are one of the greatest franchises ever historically. But in modern times, they get hyped every year, only for it to end in disappointment. It's possible Cameron Brink is so good individually that Stanford becomes a top 10 team. But after her and Hannah jump, the roster is not very good. I think Louisville will shock people, and I heavily considered them being a top 10 team. If someone said Indiana should be a top 10 team, I have zero issues with that. But I can't do it. I can't get past them fumbling not one, but 2 postseason tournaments. It doesn't help that Grace Berger isn't there anymore. So who do I have at 10? Everybody is going to hate this. But trust me, by the second half of the season, it will make sense. I got USC. USC was the current New England Patriots. They had one of the best defensive teams, but they could not score either. But they struggled to win because their offense was terrible. Last year, they had a top 5 defense. I do expect their defense to be slightly worse this year, but their offense is now 1,000 times better. And that comes down to Juju Watkins. They brought in some other quality players that will be important, but Juju will be the major difference maker. People will say all this stuff about she's only a freshman, she's not proven, it's too soon, but realistically, how many teams are equipped to guard a 6'2", 3-level scorer with ball handling abilities of a guard? Juju just being on the floor will make them better offensively, because what you will see is teams hyper-fixating on her. Teams will have the mindset of, we are not going to be the team where Juju has her first big game. This will free everyone else up, specifically Raya Marshall. She's way better than her stats show. She was the only scoring threat last year, so they were able to clog the paint and double team her. They can't do that anymore. The duo of Juju Watkins and Raya Marshall combined with their defense will make them a top 10 team. At number 9, I got Virginia Tech. The AP poll put them at number 8. I think they are spot on, as I only moved them one spot. Yes, they made the Final Four, but if we are keeping it real, their tournament division was weak. They beat Tennessee, who had one ranked win the entire season. They beat a very inconsistent Ohio State team who wasn't even top 3 in their own conference. Then they fall to LSU. I'm not saying they aren't good, otherwise they wouldn't be here. But I'm not using their Final Four run as an automatic qualifier, especially when they didn't even play a top 10 team to get there. Losing Taylor Soule and Traylor also makes them very top heavy. When I look at the teams above them, I don't feel comfortable putting Virginia Tech over them. Probably the most controversial choice here, but I'm going with Iowa at number 8. Yes, they made the national championship game. Yes, they won the Big Ten championship. Yes, Caitlin Clark is spectacular, but this team is directly worse than the year before. Losing Monica Sonato and Warnock is going to be brutal. If you're one of those people who think Caitlin Clark had no help and think she was carrying, you're in for a treat this season. There isn't a single returning player who averaged more than 10 points per game, which means Caitlin has to carry even more of the load than before. But my biggest concern is the front court. Addison looks promising, but she's ways away from being Sonato. The expectations for Stuelke are way too high based off the production she has given. Caitlin Clark is so special that Iowa has the ability to beat any team like South Carolina, but they also end up in bar fights with mediocre teams like Michigan State and Kansas State because of the amount of flaws they have. Their front court is going to get completely annihilated by the other team's post players. At number 7, I got UCLA. I kind of beat up on them a lot in the AP poll video, but I do like this team. I just think the media is crowning them way too fast. UCLA has a ton of potential, but a lot of things have to happen. Kiki Rice has to add another layer to her game. She has elite driving and mid-range ability, but that's literally it. Preferably both, but she either needs to add a 3 or become a better passer, because right now, she's way too easy to defend. I'm concerned about this because in the under-19 tournament this summer, it didn't seem like she changed her playstyle at all. Furthermore, they have to shoot better from the 3. Lauren Betts, Kiki Rice, and Osborne are all drive-heavy players, so UCLA needs to find a way to deter people from the paint. I think Lauren Betts has to become the best player on this team. Osborne is the veteran leader, but she's not someone who can be the best player on a championship team. I feel the same way about Kiki Rice until she adds more layers to the game. But if UCLA can get the same production Lauren had in the AmeriCup tournament, that's going to be huge. I have high faith in Lauren Betts, which is why I have them at 7, but they have too many holes for them to be considered Final Four favorites or anything like that. I'm putting Notre Dame in the 6th spot. Notre Dame lost Olivia Miles, who was their best player and was still able to make the Sweet 16. Meanwhile, there was 2 number 1 seeds who got sent home who still had their star players. That's the type of level Neil Ivey has been coaching at. And this was before they had Hannah Hidalgo. The idea that Notre Dame will fall off because Olivia is out for an extended period of time is nonsense. If you go by rankings, LSU had the best recruiting class, but South Carolina and Notre Dame's recruiting class is just as good, if not better. Hannah Hidalgo is the best true point guard, and her play style is almost the exact same as Olivia Miles. In the under-19 FIBA event, she looked and played better than Kiki Rice and Cody McMahon, who were very good college players. Prosper was an early enrollee. She already looked like one of the best wing defenders in the country, and that was before she got better in the under-19 event. And now she had a full off-season with Notre Dame. Emma Rich is the best shooter in the 2023 class. She shot 45% from 3 and is a 93% free throw shooter. Westbeld and Watson are a lot better than people give them credit for. If Citrone actually starts being aggressive, the sky is the limit. You're probably wondering, why did you say they could make the Final Four if you have them at number 6? It's because, while I think it can happen, they shouldn't be favorited over the other 5 teams. The AP poll was spot on at Utah at 5, so I have to give them props for that. Alyssa Peely isn't guardable. She is physically stronger than most college players and has a rare combination of post and guard moves. She shoots 43% from 3 and averaged 20 points on 59% shooting. Then you pair her with Gianna, who is a lethal shooter. LSU fans are lucky she didn't get fouled instead, because she would have hit those. They are one of the few teams that have both guard and post depth, which will be huge for them. But one thing concerns me about this team. They win very ugly, and we saw a few times where this burned them. Most notably, when they lost to Washington State in the Pac-12 tournament, or when they lost to LSU. They need to get better at putting the game away, so teams can't sneak a win past them late in the 4th quarter. At number 4, I have Ohio State. Last year, they were only the 4th best team in the Big Ten, but I like them way more this year. A big reason for that is their best player, J.C. Sheldon, is fully healthy again. She was good last year, but it was very clear she wasn't 100%. Cody McMahon went on a tear in the NCAA tournament. By the second half of the season, she looked like a top 15 player and was only a freshman. Who knows how good she will be this year? I don't care what anybody says. After Lauren Betts, Celeste Taylor was the 2nd most valuable transfer. Ohio State's biggest strength is their press. Now they just added one of the best, if not the best wing defender in all of college basketball. People aren't very familiar with Duke basketball, but the best way to explain it is that she has the same defensive impact as Brea Beal. Despite having a suffocating press, Ohio State's half-court defense was very bad. That's not the case anymore. JC is a great wing defender when she's healthy. Taylor Mikesell was a defensive liability, but now she's replaced with someone who is the exact opposite. Their three-point shooting will take a hit with Mikesell being gone, but the defensive gain is worth it. If they had any sort of post presence at all, they would probably be my pick to win the national championship. It's by far the worst out of any team on this list, but I think the trio of Celeste Taylor, Sheldon, and Cody is enough to make up for it. People want South Carolina to fall off so bad, but it's not happening. The media will talk all day about how they lost Aaliyah Boston, Beal, and many other players, but what they won't tell you is their bench, by themselves, average 42 points per game. The only tactic to guard Camila Cardoso is to have 3 to 4 players in the paint, which you won't be able to do anymore because South Carolina now has outside shooting. There is an ignorant narrative that South Carolina's defense won't be elite because Aaliyah Boston and Beal aren't there anymore. Are we just forgetting that Dawn Staley is still the coach and they have one of the biggest and most athletic teams? South Carolina's defense is system-based. It's never revolved around only 1 or 2 players. I know I said in an earlier video that Utah would beat South Carolina. I'm taking that back. Everybody is going crazy over LSU blowing out a D3 team who had less size than a high school girls basketball team. South Carolina played a Division I team called Rutgers. Chloe Kitts had a double-double and 3 blocks against a D1 team in only 17 minutes. She looked better against a D1 than Anissa did against. You know what? I'm not even gonna go there. I haven't even brought up Malaysia Fulwiley yet. If she gets her turnovers down, I'm telling y'all right now, it's over. Now we get to number 2. LSU is extremely good, but the media promoting them as an unbeatable super team and calling them a heavy favorite is nothing short of propaganda. People are confusing chemistry with synergy. A lot of people think having new players won't hurt because last year they developed great chemistry over the season. But the difference is, last year the key players complemented each other a lot better. Alexis Morris, Angel Reese, and LaDasia Williams fit perfectly together. Angel had a true point guard who could play defense. She had a true center who guarded the other team's best post player and was able to bang down low with anyone. Now they have been replaced with Haley Van Lith and Anissa Morrow. In theory, this sounds like a direct upgrade. That's not true at all. Anissa Morrow is undersized, which forces Angel to play center. That's going to absolutely destroy her production. Rosario won't be ready her freshman year. A lot of people think Haley can be trained into a point guard. I've watched a lot of ACC basketball. This is a terrible idea. Angel would work a lot better with Smith than Anissa. She is better off taking her chances with a younger player like Michaela Williams and teaching her point guard than trying to unwire 3 years of someone playing shooting guard. There's a lot of other flaws I could bring up, but there's not enough time to discuss in a video like this. This includes having no true point guard, no veteran center, and too many high-volume shooters. I still have them at number 2 because their bench is the best in the country, and Angel Reese and Michaela are built different. The media knows exactly what they are doing by hyping LSU up as a heavy favorite. It's because if Uconn beats them, it creates an amazing narrative for Paige Beckers. I'm sure they have never done this before. If you want to say Uconn isn't number 1 because they can't stay healthy, I have no argument. But if at least these 4 players are healthy, I don't know how Uconn isn't the best team. Those 4 are Nika Moule, Aaliyah Edwards, Paige Beckers, and AZ Fudd. Nika Moule is quietly one of the best defenders in the country. Most importantly, she led the league in assists with a 2-to-1 assist to turnover ratio. So you got a true point guard. Then you got Aaliyah Edwards, a true post player. If someone is able to give Aaliyah Boston and Camila Cardoso buckets, that should scare you. If Paige Beckers and AZ are successfully able to stay on the floor together, they are literally going to be unguardable. You have 2 out of 3 best shooters on the same team. Not only can they shoot from anywhere, they have insane off-ball movement and can drive to the basket. Maybe you can stop one, but both is near impossible. The best way to beat Uconn is to outscore them, but considering their defense, that's going to be very hard to do. They have 3 top 15 players on their team, and their play styles actually mesh well. Their bench is very good too. It's funny how the media keeps calling LSU a super team, but somehow a team with AZ Fudd, Paige Beckers, and Aaliyah Edwards isn't. So that's my top 10. Feel free to give your opinion. I know there's going to be some people who are going to talk real crazy. I'm okay with that, but I will keep receipts. I plan on doing a reaction video later in this season. If I was wrong, I'll own up to it. But if I'm right, I'm going to brag a little. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you later.